Thank you everyone for taking a little bit of time out of your day to join me on this Thursday afternoon or late Thursday morning, depending what time zone you're in. As I mentioned, this webinar is all about PromoStandards and how it works with commonsku. And we're going to talk about kind of the entire gambit that is available through PromoStandards features. We'll talk a little bit about how each part is going to work in our system, and we're going to actually look at an order inside of commonsku as well and how you can utilize this. First thing I just want to start off with here is just a little bit of an introduction to PromoStandards. You can see I'm on our fully connected workflow page. It's actually, you guys can find it at commonsku.com/connectedworkflow. That talks a little bit about PromoStandards and also some internal connected workflow pieces as well. So with the connected workflow term that we use over here at commonsku, it's all about a better way for you guys to be able to communicate. And by you guys, I mean both distributors and suppliers. So a way for distributors and suppliers to work a little bit closer together and try and make that supply chain a little bit shorter. One of the ways that you can do that right now is with those suppliers that are on commonsku, you do have the ability to both collaborate with them. On the distributor side, you can send out collaboration requests. You can look at collections that suppliers are generating, and they are generating new ones every day. And then obviously you can also interact with them on our community. But that's not really what this webinar is about. This webinar is all about PromoStandards and how you can be utilizing that inside of commonsku to hopefully save yourselves a little bit of time. Now, if you're not familiar with what PromoStandards is, what PromoStandards basically is a group of suppliers who have gotten together to help standardize data and make it more accessible to distributors. The idea behind it is to save everybody a little bit of time both on phone calls and for processing orders. There are multiple different levels of PromoStandards that are available, and suppliers are bought in at different levels. So when bought in, I just mean that their data is available at different levels of PromoStandards. So the very kind of top level is inventory, being able to do live inventory checks directly from the vendor's data, not through a third-party app, but the inventory level check is actually coming straight from the vendor's information. The next part down is being able to do order status and shipping notifications. So that means being able to click on a button and seeing exactly what's going on with your purchase order in real time. Not having to pick up the phone, not having to email a supplier, find out what's going on with the PO, but rather just clicking on a button and seeing what's going on with that. The next kind of step down is product data, and that means pulling in data directly from the supplier. Not pulling in data through ESP or through Sage or Distributor Central or any third-party apps, but actually getting data straight from the source, straight from that supplier. And the cool part about that is the data that we're able to pull in is pulling in with your company's specific parameters. So company-specific pricing, columns, all of that stuff. So it's actually able to pull in and alter the pricing that is showing in commonsku based off of your login information with that vendor. And then kind of the bottom two steps, or the last two steps with PromoStandards are electronic POs. So being able to submit a PO electronically rather than emailing it in where it has to get rekeyed by the vendor. And then ultimately that vendor will be able to send you an e-bill, and they'll actually be able to send you a bill back electronically that will match that PO. So in the kind of ultimate realm of all these things working all together in harmony, the idea with this is that distributors will be able to check the status or check the inventory on an item before it gets added to an order. Then they'll add that item into an order, and when they add the item in, it will pull in with your specific pricing. You'll then prep that PO, and you'll send it in electronically. And then you'll be able to click on a button, and it will tell you what's going on with that PO in the supplier system. So if you sit back and you think about how many phone calls, how many emails, how many different websites that you have to pull up to do all those things now, how great would it be if you could do all those things in one system, pull it in knowing that there's stock with your pricing that you don't have to check. You can submit it electronically so it gets instantaneously entered into the system, and then you click on a button and check on exactly what's going on with that PO all in a single place. And that's really what PromoStandards is trying to do. And if you're sitting back and you're thinking, well, why would a supplier want to do this? If you're thinking about how many phone calls, how many emails you're saving, think of how many phone calls and emails that supplier is saving on their side of having to pick up and answer pricing questions or answer what's going on with the PO. And the whole purpose behind that is that it'll save everybody on both sides, the supplier and the distributor side, tons and tons of time and having to answer all of those questions and communicate back and forth, creating a nice kind of electronic workflow. So that gives everybody a little bit of an overview. That's like a quick 5-minute overview on kind of what PromoStandards is and the holy grail of PromoStandards. So let's talk a little bit about how it works inside of our system and how you can see it inside of commonsku. The very first thing that people typically ask me is, how can I tell which suppliers are using PromoStandards? So you can actually find that when you go into commonsku. If you click into your supplier section auto sorts by suppliers that are on our platform. So you can scroll through here and you'll see any of the suppliers that have the yellow light bulb means that they are available to collaborate with on our platform. But for the PromoStandards stuff, you can see by inventory, by order status, and by ePO. If it is lit up, that means that it is available. If the icon is grayed out, that means that it actually is available, but that vendor hasn't entered in credentials for your distributorship yet into commonsku. Basically, to connect you with PromoStandards, that supplier has a unique set of credentials, a login and a password, that they enter in for your distributorship in the commonsku, and then that's what allows us to connect you with them through our system. So if it's grayed out, it means that it's available. They just haven't entered it in for you yet. So you can kind of scroll through here and you'll be able to see all the different vendors that have ordership and status notifications. You'll be able to see which ones have ePOs, which ones have inventory as well. If you see one that is grayed out and you would really like to get connected with them, there is actually also another help article inside of our help articles center called PromoStandards Contacts that will list out each person at each distributorship who you need to contact to get your credentials. Now, all you have to do is reach out to them and email them and say, hey, can you add my PromoStandards credentials to commonsku? And then that vendor will actually be able to go in and do it. If there's no contact here, you can just reach out to your rep who can grab those credentials for you, and you can send those credentials over to support@commonsku.com, and then we'll be able to add them in for you. Okay. So first thing for everybody to do is take a look in that supplier section. If it's grayed out, reach out to that supplier and get them to add in your credentials or send those credentials over to the support team and we'll get those connected for you. So enough about setup. Let's talk about, or let's take a look at how this actually happens inside of the platform. So I have an order that is already kind of working and we're going to just kind of run through this in a little bit of real time. The first thing is inventory level checks. So let's talk a little bit about that. With inventory level checks, there's about 50 or so different suppliers that's available with. And you'll actually see that when you go to edit a product at any stage, a presentation, an estimate, or a sales order. When you go to edit that product, there's a check inventory levels button that you can click on, and it will do a live call to that vendor's inventory and pull back the numbers for you in real time. So with PrimeLine is an example, Sanmar is another example, HIT, they all have inventory here, and it shows me in real time what they have in stock. If you're doing a really large item that has lots of variants, like sizes, colors, then you can actually sort by size and color here and break that down. So if you want to see for Sanmar what they have in a certain shirt and only in a certain color, you can pull that out rather than having to scroll through a massive list. Now, if you do end up adding in a product from a vendor that has product data and ePOs, so right now there are 3 different vendors that have product data and ePOs available, which are Starline, alphabroder, and Cutter and Buck. If I was to add in one of those products here to my presentation, so let's do this alphabroder item here, you'll see when I click on it, I get like a different kind of pop-up. It doesn't add in like a regular product. That's because we are actually pulling the data in from alphabroder's data set. You can see I can sort by all the different sizes and colors that are available here. And with this kind of promo standards pop-up, it also is able to show me what's in stock for each size and color and the price for it as well. If you're working on a presentation and you're adding in one of these items, you do not need to select all the sizes and colors that you want to make available. You just need to select one. Okay, when you click select and click add product, then all we need is for you to select one so we know what price to drop in. Okay, you don't have to go crazy and select all of them. Okay, you can just select one, then we know what price to drop in. So you'll notice kind of with that pop-up that it shows me inventory right there in that pop-up rather than having to go into another one of these vendors who are not using product data and I have to click a separate button. The only other part that is a little bit different here is when you're editing one of these products, a PromoStandards product on a presentation or let's talk specifically about presentations, you'll see that the pricing SKU is here. This is kind of alphabroder's internal SKU number. It's different than the external SKU number. This is kind of like the SKU that they use at the warehouse. That's the one that we're getting the pricing off of. The other thing is if I do want to make additional colors and sizes available, I can click Update Options on the right. And if I want to just use all of the options that are available for this item, I can just hit Select All and then click Close, and it will drop in every size and color that is available for this item. The other kind of common question that we get is, as you can tell, there's no run charge and fixed charge over here that I'm able to add in. And the reason why is if you are actually clicking Add Run Charge and Add Fixed Charge to add in decoration charges at this point, that's actually showing up in the wrong place on a sales order. The proper way to do it for any item, if you want to add in decoration charges on a presentation, is to add in artwork here. So you can click in Add and then Add New Decoration Location, fill out the information similar to how you do it on an estimate or a sales order, and then you can fill out corresponding charges over on the left. You can see it's corresponding 1 to location 1. So I can fill those out over here. So you do have that option to add those in. So those are really the minor changes. The pop-up is a little bit different. Adding in the artwork and then updating your sizes and colors are really the main changes at that presentation level. So let's kind of continue this on and move it forward a little bit. I'm going to move this down into a sales order. And what we're going to do is I'm actually not going to bring any of the items. We'll just add them from scratch. So when we add them from scratch, I actually would like to go to a estimate really quick first. So let's do that. So let's jump into an estimate. You know what, we'll just pull this alpha item across for us really quick. So on the estimate itself, the only kind of real change for PromoStandards items on the estimate is you do have an option here. Part of the feedback that we got was on an estimate, your client doesn't necessarily know what sizes and colors that they want to order yet. So showing them a size and color, the client's not going to agree to order 100 small and royal heather. So that's not what they want. But they don't really know what they want yet. They just want a price. So actually on the estimate, you do have an option where you can click Display Option, and you have the option to mask both the size and color at this point. So you do have the option to select Show TBD. So what the client will see on their side is size and color to be determined rather than seeing a full size and color breakdown. Okay, and that's just if your client's not totally sure what they want to order yet. You can see that when I converted this one forward, that it also added in the decoration stuff for me at the bottom. So that's kind of the only difference with the estimate. Let's keep moving this forward and let's go on to the actual sales order. So with the sales order, what I want to do is I'm going to add in 2 items. We're going to add in the same item from Alpha, and I'm going to add in an item from Starline as well. I'll show you guys how this should be a little bit faster for everybody, and you can start to harness or tame that horse. So when you're adding items into an estimate or a sales order, what you have the ability to do now is actually select your size and color from this screen rather than adding in the item once and then filling out your size and color and having to click that down arrow. What we can do is, let's try and select something that's in stock. I can say, okay, I need small, medium, large, XL, and it comes in 2XL, and look at that. Rather than me having to add in a different item or find the separate pricing for the 2XL, I can actually just add it in here. Pretty nifty. So let's add that item in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in one of the items, like I said, from Starline, who is generally a hard goods supplier, and I'll show you how you can do some kind of cool things with that. So let's add in CM110 from them, which I believe is a cooler as far as I know. Let's see if we can pull them up here. Ooh, I must have the wrong item number. That's okay. Let's just grab Starline then. And we'll just pick one at random. All right, so while we're adding in the Starline item, I think one of the things for people to notice is that this product data is only going to redirect for you, okay, once you have your credentials in there. So with the credential piece, if you do not have credentials, or if alphabroder has not added your credentials into CommonsQ, there will be no redirect, okay? So just something for you guys to note, if you go to add an item in right now from alphabroder and it's not doing it, it's just because your credentials aren't in there, so reach out to them, or Cutter or Starline, just reach out to them and get them added in. Okay, so we got our items in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to click Edit, and the edit screen looks pretty much the same. I think one of the cool parts about this is if you do get cost column pricing, first thing is the item that's being added in from alphabroder should come in with your company pricing, okay? So whatever pricing you get with alphabroder with that item will come through here. The other part is that if you are still on column pricing, as you're updating your quantities, that will automatically update the net cost to the next column pricing for you. Okay, so you don't need to check and see which column you're in. It will automatically update the cost for you as you're typing in quantities. Okay, so you can see how quickly I was able to get through that and fill out my quantities. Obviously, I did 20s of everything, but I did that by just kind of tabbing through. So it's a really, really kind of fast way for you to get through this. And then if you need to add in, additional colors or anything like that that you missed the first time, you can always click Add Breakdown. And when you click Add Breakdown, then you can add in those additional colors, and you can add as many as you would like, same way that we originally added this product. Now I'm just going to add in a decoration real quick for no real reason other than it'll bother me if I don't complete this product fully. So I'm just going to fill this out really quick, and we'll do some weights and max color. Great. So this item's now done, and you can see it was pretty quick, right? I didn't have to click that down arrow to copy my line and then click back and forth. All that stuff was done. I was able to tab through the menus really, really fast. Now for the other item, the Starline item, it's a hard good item, and I love showing this because I think how our development team did it is really cool. For the Starline item, what happens is I can click where it says Add Decoration Location, and because it's a hard good item, and Starline generally does the decoration, what it does is it only shows me the locations that are available to print on this item. So I can actually click Front Pocket, and you can see when I do that, it says imprint type, and only shows me the imprint types that are available for this item as well. So I can select True Color, and when I do that, then it's going to drop in automatically the setup charge. Okay, you can see any tariff charges done. All that stuff is auto-dropping in. From here, if I need to add in any additional run charges, I can do that, like personalization. That's awesome, right? And then I can also add in my artwork. So I can go in and fill out all the artwork here. There's clearly a hippo. And max and color, great. And I can, all my pricing drops in here automatically for me. Okay, I don't have to fill any of that stuff out. If I select a personalization charge, it's going to drop that in there for me, and then I can adjust my pricing if I need to. Okay, all that stuff is autofilling because Starline is generally doing the printing. So it's able to autofill all those charges for us, and that's something that we'll continue to see with these hard good vendors as we're getting more of them using PromoStandards, that we're able to drop that stuff in just based off of your selection of drop-down rather than you having to manually key all that stuff in. Okay, so I think that part is really pretty cool. So now that we have both of those items completely filled out, okay, so we've pulled so far an inventory level check through PromoStandards. We pulled product data through PromoStandards, which was great on the Starline product specifically because it was able to pull all of the charges for us, the setup charges, all of that stuff are in here, okay? Then we go into shipping. Now, shipping for each of these items is going to be a little bit different. For the alphabroder item, when we click Edit, you'll notice that filling out shipping here is going to be a little bit different because it is an ePO. And ePOs are, again, electronic purchase orders. These are POs that no one is going to read on the other end. So that means all the data that is going into their system is the same as the data that needs to come out. It has to be standard data. So when I'm filling out shipping for this item, I'm still going to have it shipped to a decorator. And then under shipping methods, it will only list out available shipping methods through alphabroder system. Okay? If you have a shipping number set up, that shipping number is set to a specific ship type, usually something like UPS ground, so they'll know to use your shipping number if you select that ship type. Okay? The main piece here is that you probably have noticed there are no notes. And the reason why there are no notes is that in an electronic world, you probably can't add notes because no one's going to see them, right? No one's going to read those notes. And if somebody has to read those notes, then you might as well be emailing a PO in. So in terms of things like, make sure it ships on time or telling alphabroder what factory to ship it from or anything like that, alphabroder has an algorithm that will read the purchase order, where it needs to go, the shipping method that you want to use to allocate the PO to the right warehouse to pick it up. Okay, so they will route it to the closest warehouse to that location to ship it out on time. Okay, so you don't have to put that in the notes. The purpose of this is that it's going to go in electronically. If you ordered something from Amazon, you probably wouldn't be able to add notes to the vendor that's supplying that item on Amazon, right? You wouldn't be able to say, hey, make sure I get it by Monday, because again, they're not going to read that. So in this electronic world, this is one of the biggest mindset changes that we've found with our user base and with using PromoStandards is that adding these custom modes every single time to a PO slows down the process a lot, and generally the supplier can see everything they need to see on a PO. Okay, so there's really no need for specific notes about the purchase order because they can see all of that stuff, and when it gets fed into their system will be able to route it to the right place. Now on the right-hand side, we have our decorator. So this is standard kind of decoration information that we're going to throw in there. We'll say enhance for next week. Great. Now we get this little verify address here. Basically what this is doing is it's actually just checking everything based off of the postal code to make sure that the address that I'm filling out is right. And I can either update the information or I can ignore it. If the address isn't correct when it goes into alphabroder system, they would obviously not be able to accept the ePO, and then you would have to email it in like regular. So I'm going to choose to ignore it because I don't really want to send in a ePO to them anyways. For Starline, when I edit their information, they're going to ship it straight to my client. So I'm going to select the address of my client. And again, shipping methods are all shipping methods that that Starline uses. Starline and Cutter & Buck both do support third-party shipping accounts. So you can actually set up third-party shipping accounts in your admin area, and then you can choose to use one of those shipping accounts if you'd like, or you can add shipping accounts on the fly. So you can give it a name, a number, and the postal code that is tied to that, or zip code that's tied to that third-party shipping account if you want to use it. Okay, so you do have the option to use third-party shipping accounts with both Starline and Cutter. You also have the ability to add in notes. And now I just went through a rant about why you can't add notes to an alphabroder PO, and here it is that you can add them into the Starline. The difference here is if you do add notes to a PO for Starline, that PO, while it does still get submitted electronically, gets put into a queue for review. So that means that somebody does still need to review your purchase order before it goes into processing, which kind of defeats the purpose of an ePO. So somebody then will review your PO and then approve it or not. So basically, this is a very similar way of if somebody emails it in, it has to get read. If you put notes in there, it flags it that it has to get read on Starline's side. Okay, so I would recommend not putting notes in there if you're trying to get that order in quickly. If you do put notes in there, it's going to bog everything down just a touch. So once we go ahead and we hit save on that information, great. What happens now is when we go to our purchase order section, we're going to generate our POs. And when we generate our POs, we get to the actual ePO submission, which is at the very end of the line of these 3 purchase orders that are getting generated. You'll see for both Alpha and for Starline that the PO will say send to supplier. So what I can do is I can click send to supplier. When I click send to supplier, it opens up a little pop-up, which gives me the option to BCC other people, and then I can hit submit. Mine's going to fail because obviously I don't want to submit a real PO. If it fails, you have the option to email it in at this point, but hopefully yours doesn't. So yours will say that it's submitted, and once it submits it electronically, the status will move to submitted, and we'll document that in the notes section. Once it is submitted, that PO is then created automatically in that vendor system, no rekeying, nobody's having to look at it. It is an instantaneous PO and generated immediately. The cool part about that is because it gets generated right away, you have this check order status button that you can click on. And when you click on that, it'll actually do a live call to that vendor system. And you can do this about 30 seconds after you've submitted electronically, and you can see your PO in their system. It'll show you what status the PO is in that vendor system. It'll show you what status we recommend that is in Common SKU. And then we'll show you all this information directly from their system. So the order number, the name, when they expect to ship it, when it should be there, who to contact if you have questions, any additional notes they log, if you need to do anything, and when they updated it last. Kind of a filled out one will look something like this, where it shows you that it's in production, this is when it should ship, this is when it should be there, this is who you should contact, and this is when they updated it last. Okay. And that check order status button will be there not only for ePOs, but for any of those vendors that have order status and ship notifications. And that button is available both here at the actual project level and also in your operations report. As I mentioned earlier, you'll have a little section or a little button that's going to be a little blue button that you can click on, and you can check the status of that immediately, and it'll do the same thing. It'll pull that pop-up for you. So again, thinking about how many times you have to email or call a vendor and find out what's going on with the PO, with ePOs or with check order and ship notifications, it's all there at the click of a button. Okay, and like I said, if you want to see kind of the filled out, I'm just looking at our help article here, but this is one that's in production for alphabroder, and I can see exactly what's going on with it right now. And then when it ships out, you can see that I will be able to see all of this information. So I'll see the order number, where it shipped from, where it's going. I'll be able to see all the tracking IDs as well, how they shipped it, all of that information at the click of a button rather than having to collect emails or make phone calls. So that kind of takes us to the end of our PromoStandards journey today. The biggest thing that I can say to everybody is get in there and make sure that you get these suppliers to put your credentials in there. If you're scrolling through the list of suppliers and you see that there's a supplier that you love working with that isn't enabled yet, next time you have them in for a PK, next time that you talk to them, ask them if they're on PromoStandards, ask them if they're on Common SKU, right? We're trying to make this as a way for you to work with your favorite vendors a lot easier. And the best way to make that happen is for it to come from you. For you guys, the distributors, to push these vendors to be getting their data standardized and get it into Common SKU and get the PromoStandards stuff enabled to make it easier for you to work with them. Because ultimately, this makes it easier for anybody who's doing this. It makes it easier for you to get information to them, to get information out of them. And, obviously you want to do business with people that it's going to be easiest with. So check out the list. Reach out to suppliers that don't have your credentials in there yet and get those connected so you can start taking advantage of this. Start reaching out to some of those vendors that are not on there that you would love to work with so we can get them on PromoStandards and make it easier. And then obviously if you do have any questions, as always, you can reach out to us through the support chat. or you can email us at support@commonsq.com. This PromoStandards webinar is recorded, so we will be sending out a copy of it and posting it on our YouTube page. And if you did ask any questions during the webinar in the questions pane, thank you so much for that. We will make sure that we're going to review those, and you'll get an answer from the support team over the course of the next day. So thank you again, everybody, for joining me today. And if you need anything, you know where to find us. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.